In the quiet corners of history, where maps end and myths begin, lie whispers of a world that came before our own. We have all heard tales of Atlantis, the jewel of the Atlantic, swallowed by the waves in a day and a night of misfortune. But what if Atlantis was merely a colony, a child of an even grander, more ancient civilization? What if, in the vast, shimmering expanse of the Pacific Ocean, there once existed an eighth continent, the true motherland of humanity, a lost paradise known as Mu? The story of this forgotten world does not begin with a weathered scroll or a monumental ruin, but in the fertile mind of a 19th century archaeologist, a man named Augustus Le Plongeon. While deep in the jungles of the Yucatan, studying the enigmatic ruins of the Maya, Le Plongeon became convinced that he was standing amidst a civilization far older than those of Greece or Egypt. He claimed to have translated the sacred Mayan texts, which spoke not of their own genesis, but of an even more ancient continent, a motherland from which they were descended. He found the name for this land in the flawed work of a contemporary, Charles-Étienne Brasseur de Bourbourg, who had mistranslated a Mayan document known as the Troano Codex. Brasseur believed a word he read as Mu referred to a land submerged by a great catastrophe. Le Plongeon seized upon this name, identifying this lost land with Atlantis and placing it in the Atlantic Ocean. He spun a tale of refugees from the sinking continent, founding the civilizations of both the Maya in Central America and the ancient Egyptians across the sea, led by a fugitive Maya queen he called Mu. At the time, his ideas were dismissed by the academic world as fantasy, and the whispers of Mu might have faded into obscurity were it not for another man, an explorer who would dedicate his life to proving its existence. His name was James Churchward, a British officer, author, and mystic. The true saga of Mu begins with him, not in a dusty library, but in the hushed sanctity of an ancient temple in India. In 1868, as a young man serving in the British Army, Churchward befriended a high-ranking temple abbot. This priest, a man of profound wisdom, saw in Churchward a spirit hungry for knowledge and eventually chose to reveal a secret that had been guarded for millennia. He led Churchward deep into the temple, to a cellar that had existed for thousands of years, a secret library closed to all outsiders. There, the abbot unveiled a collection of ancient, sunburnt clay tablets. They were covered in strange symbols, a language the priest called Nagamaya, the original language of mankind. For 10,000 years, he explained, these tablets had been dispersed to 5 sacred locations: India, Tibet, Egypt, and the lands of the Maya and Inca, protected by a secret brotherhood. Now, only 3 members of that brotherhood remained, the last men on earth who could decipher this forgotten tongue. If you are willing to learn, the abbot offered, I will tell you all the messages on the clay tablets. Churchward, an expert in preserving ancient artifacts, made a solemn promise. If the priest would teach him the dead language, he would dedicate himself to restoring and safeguarding the precious tablets. Over the course of 12 years, Churchward delved into the mysteries of the Nagamaya script. As the symbols gave up their secrets, a breathtaking story emerged, a history of humanity that began not a few thousand years ago, but tens of thousands of years in the past. The tablets, the priest had told him, originated from the place where man first appeared, Mu. From these translations, Churchward painted a vivid picture of a lost world. Mu was a vast continent, a true natural paradise nestled in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. Larger than South America, it stretched over 5,000 miles from east to west, from the Mariana Islands to Easter Island, and 3,000 miles from north to south, from Hawaii down to the island of Mangaia. It was a beautiful tropical kingdom of wide, flat plains, rich pastures, and rolling hills. Majestic, winding rivers flowed through dense forests, and along the coast, palm trees danced like ears of wheat in the gentle breeze. At that time, the towering mountain peaks we know today had not yet been pushed up from the Earth's interior. This idyllic land was home to a highly advanced civilization known as the Naacal, who flourished between 50,000 and 12,000 years ago. They were a people physically tall and beautiful, dominated by what Churchward described as a melanated black race, a civilization superior in many respects to our own. At its peak, Mu had a population of 64 million inhabitants, divided into 10 tribes, all living under a single government and a single religion. Their 8 major cities were filled with opulent temples and ornate buildings, constructed from massive, perfectly fitted stones that, according to the tablets, emitted a kind of invisible energy that could help the body repair and recover from injuries. At the center of each city stood a magnificent roofless structure called the Temple of Transparency, through which the people of Mu communed with the creator of the world, whom they called Ra. The Naacal possessed scientific and technological knowledge that would rival our own. They were masters of engineering and agriculture, constructing complex irrigation systems and megalithic structures with ease. With advanced navigation technology, their ships sailed to every corner of the globe, establishing colonies in what would become Egypt, India, Greece, and Central America. The knowledge of Mu was carried to these colonies by a special order of priests and teachers known as the Naacal Brotherhood. The civilization was ruled by a priest-king, the supreme ruler of Mu, whom the people called Ra-Mu. Ra symbolized the great creator spirit, and Mu represented the motherland, so Ra-Mu meant the representative of the cosmic source on Earth. The king was respected but not worshipped. On this land, all life was considered equal. There was no slavery, and animals were never enslaved. In this noble cohesion, science and religion were never in opposition. The continent was divided into 3 regions, dedicated respectively to science, religion, and education, with a great council overseeing research and reporting to Ra-Mu for final decisions. The tablets Churchward translated contained more than just history. They held the very story of creation itself. In the beginning, there was only a supreme spirit, the Creator. One day the Spirit conceived a desire to create a world. He gave 7 great commands to his executors, the 7-headed serpent, Narayana. The first command gathered the invisible gases of space into whirling masses. The second condensed them into the earth and water. The third command brought forth light. The fourth raised the land from the waters. The fifth and sixth commands brought life into the world, first in the seas and then on the land, as the rays of the sun met the forces of the earth in cosmic eggs formed from mud and dust. Finally, the Spirit gave the last command, "Let us make man in our own image." And so, mankind was born, and the divine Spirit breathed an eternal soul into his body, awakening him to wisdom. This creation story, Churchward noted, echoed through the myths of the world, from the 7 days of the Bible's Genesis to the 7-headed serpents of Indian religion and the feathered serpent of the Maya. All, he believed, had their source in Mu. For millennia, the earth experienced its first golden age under the gentle guidance of the motherland. But the Naacal, despite their advanced science, advocated not to intervene with nature and never paid much attention to geography. They never expected that they would eventually fall at the hands of the very nature they so deeply respected. About 15,000 years ago, the end began. A dull, low-frequency sound rumbled from the depths of the earth, and within seconds, a super-earthquake struck, awakening a huge volcano. As Mu was a land of plains, the lava spread unimpeded, covering the last of its magnificent buildings. When the aftershocks finally ceased, weeks later, the continent was devastated. This, however, was only a prelude. The great trauma forced the Naacal to study the geography of their continent. They discovered that the rock layers beneath Mu were filled with vast, hollow cavities. The earthquake had destabilized this foundation, and they determined that the continent was doomed to sink completely within a few decades. Under Ra-Mu's urgent instructions, the Council of 10 began to draw up evacuation plans, sending members of the Naacal Brotherhood to their colonies across the world to preserve the knowledge of their civilization. But they had miscalculated. They did not have decades. Less than 2 years after the first disaster, about 12,000 years ago, a final, apocalyptic night befell the continent. Another, more terrible earthquake shook the very foundations of the world. A Mayan document Churchward translated, the Troano manuscript, described the horror. In the year 6 Khan, on the 11th Muluk in the month Zak, there occurred terrible earthquakes, which continued without interruption until the 13th Chuen. The country of the hills of mud, the land of Mu, was sacrificed. Being twice heaved up, it disappeared during one night. At last the surface gave away, and 10 countries were become asunder and scattered. Mu sank with 64 million inhabitants. Churchward also found another account in an ancient Tibetan text he called the Lhasa record. When the starball fell on the place where is now only sea and sky, the 7 cities with their golden gates and transparent temples quivered and shook like the leaves of a tree in storm. And behold, a flood of fire and smoke arose from the palaces. The wise Mu, the hieratic of Ramu, arose and said to them, "Did not I predict all this?" And the women and the men lamented, "Mu, save us." And Mu replied, "You shall die together with your slaves and your riches, and from your ashes will arise new nations." Flame and smoke choked the words of Mu. The land and its inhabitants were torn to pieces and swallowed by the depths. In a single, catastrophic night, the continent was completely obliterated, the broken land falling into a great abyss of fire and covered by 50 million square miles of water. The mother civilization that had birthed all the great cultures of the world had vanished beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean. Armed with these translations, Churchward embarked on a journey to find physical proof of Mu's existence. He traveled to Easter Island, which the Indian abbot had told him was once part of the continent. There, with the help of a local elder, he found 7 tablets whose inscriptions seemed to confirm the story. The elder translated them, speaking of ancestors who came to the island long ago, who could move boulders at will and communicate with plants and animals. To honor them, the Easter Islanders had built the giant stone statues, the Moai, which stand to this day, gazing out over the vast ocean at their lost homeland. The Moai themselves are an enduring mystery. Gigantic figures with oversized heads. Some stand over 30 feet tall and weigh more than 80 tons. They were carved from the volcanic tuff of a single quarry and moved miles across the island to be erected on stone platforms called ahu. How did the ancient Rapa Nui people accomplish this feat? Their oral traditions simply state that the statues walked to their locations. Researchers have proposed various methods, from rocking them upright with ropes to rolling them on logs, but the most tantalizing explanation, and the one Churchward favored, involves a lost technology or spiritual power inherited from their Muan ancestors. Churchward pointed to the massive red stone hats, called pukao, that sit atop some statues. He claimed they represented the sun and were a symbol of Ra, the king of Mu, further linking the island to the lost continent. Churchward's quest took him to other islands in the Pacific. In Micronesia, he encountered the ruins of Nan Madol, a vast, ancient city built of enormous basalt columns atop a coral reef. Known as the Venice of the Pacific, it is a complex of 92 artificial islets linked by canals. The basalt stones, weighing anywhere from 5 to 50 tons each, were quarried from a location 40 kilometers away. How were they transported across the open ocean and lifted into place by a people who lacked pulleys, levers, or heavy machinery? Modern experiments using rafts have failed. Local legends, however, speak of 2 mysterious wizard brothers, Olishipa and Olasopa, who used their magic to make the giant stones fly through the air as if they were weightless. For Churchward, this was not magic, but the folk memory of a lost technology, the advanced engineering of Mu. He saw further proof in the pyramid phenomenon. Across the globe, from the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt to the pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico, and the even older pyramids of China, distant and supposedly unconnected civilizations built massive, geometrically similar structures aligned with extreme mathematical and astronomical precision. How could this be possible, he asked, unless they all inherited their knowledge from a common source? Mu, he proposed, was the dot that connected them all. The survivors of the cataclysm, scattered across the world, preserved the secrets of their lost motherland in stone. This leads to the most profound and unsettling question of all. If the people of Mu were so advanced, were they entirely human? How did a civilization predating all known history achieve such incredible advancements in language, astronomy, and engineering? This is where the story of Mu intersects with another tantalizing theory, the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Ancient texts from around the world are filled with stories of celestial beings descending from the heavens to create and guide humanity. The Sumerian Anunnaki, the Mayan sky gods, the pilots of the Hindu Vedas flying Vimanas. Hawaiian legends speak of the original settlers of Mu being visitors from the Pleiades star cluster. What if Mu was the first point of contact? What if this mother civilization was not entirely human, but a hybrid, born from the union of early humans and extraterrestrial visitors? Such a theory could explain their profound knowledge, their divine rulers, and their almost supernatural abilities. It might also explain why they were wiped out. What if this coexistence was seen as a cosmic transgression, an abomination so great that the entire continent had to be cleansed from the face of the earth in a single, fiery night? For a time, the legend of Mu even found a home in modern fiction. In the 1963 Japanese science fiction film Atragon, the Mu Empire is reimagined as an advanced underwater civilization that survived the cataclysm 12,000 years ago. Hidden in the darkest depths of the Pacific, they maintained their technological superiority, developing submarines that could dive to unthinkable depths and diving suits that could withstand the crushing pressure. They worshipped a giant sea dragon deity named Manda, and, ruled by a powerful empress, sought to reclaim their ancestral home on the surface world, leading to a spectacular conflict with modern humanity and its ultimate weapon, the flying super submarine Gotengo. This fictional portrayal, while dramatic, captured the essence of Churchward's vision: a proud, powerful, and technologically superior civilization lost to time. But what does modern science say of this epic tale? For all its allure, the story of Mu stands on shaky ground. Geologists are firm in their assessment. The existence of a lost continent like Mu is physically impossible. According to the theory of plate tectonics, the Earth's crust is composed of lighter continental plates, cial, that float on a denser oceanic crust, cima, much like icebergs on water. A continent cannot simply sink into the mantle. While continental drift can break continents apart over hundreds of millions of years, the idea of a landmass the size of South America being destroyed in a single night defies all known geological principles. The islands of the Pacific are not the mountain peaks of a sunken landmass. They are the tips of isolated volcanoes that have risen from the ocean floor. The Pacific seabed has been extensively mapped, and there is no trace of a lost continent beneath the waves. The historical evidence is equally problematic. Le Plongeon's translations of the Madrid Codex were imaginative fabrications. Maya hieroglyphs were not deciphered until decades later, and we now know the Codex is an astronomical almanac, not a historical record of a sunken land. The mysterious Lhasa record appears to have originated in a sensationalist magazine article written by a man calling himself Dr. Paul Schliemann, whose identity and claims have never been verified and are widely considered a hoax. And most damningly, the cornerstone of Churchward's entire theory, the Naacal tablets from the Indian temple, were never seen by anyone else. He never produced them for independent analysis, leaving his grand story built upon a foundation of unverifiable claims. Yet, if Mu never existed, why do so many cultures across the Pacific and around the world have stories of a lost homeland swallowed by the sea? Perhaps the legend is not of a lost continent, but a misinterpretation of real historical events. Some researchers suggest the myth could be a distant memory of the flooding of Sundaland, a vast area of Southeast Asia that was exposed during the last ice age and submerged by rising sea levels, around 12,000 years ago, the same time frame Churchward described. Others believe the legends are cultural memories of localized but devastating events, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, or the sinking of smaller islands, that were magnified over millennia into the tale of a great sunken land. In the end, the lost continent of Mu remains an enchanting enigma. It is a story that bridges archaeology and myth, science and speculation. While concrete proof remains elusive and scientific consensus dismisses it as fiction, the legend endures. It speaks to a deep and eternal human yearning to understand our origins, to believe in a lost golden age, a motherland from which all the wonders of civilization sprang. Whether Mu was a real place or simply a powerful myth, its story reminds us of the eternal quest to understand our past and the mysteries that may still lie hidden, waiting to be discovered in the vast and deep ocean of our ancestors' dreams. The truth, as they say, is out there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure with us.